These days we are watching a TV show Better Call Saul, which is one of the best TV shows in my opinion. Both the prequel to the show, which was Breaking Bad, was really amazing storytelling, acting. The atmosphere was really well done, a work of art. And now Better Call Saul, which is really great acting, everything is good. Our generation and generations after us are much less likely to go pick up a book by Victor Hugo, which deals with similar themes, but it seems like for us it's a bigger commitment, and for our students, our next generations. So it is more accessible to go watch Better Call Saul or Breaking Bad. In this video, I want to talk about some very minor subtleties of the TV show Better Call Saul. I want to talk about two objects in the story. One of these objects is Jimmy's ring, the ring that he wears on, I think, the little finger of his left hand. And the other object is Jimmy's car. Jimmy is the original name of Saul Goodman, Jimmy McGill, James McGill. In storytelling and film reviews, it is common to say that an object is so important, becomes so prominent, that it becomes a character. It becomes one of the characters in the story, just like Jimmy himself, or Marco, or Kim, or Jimmy's brother. And the ring has that feature. It takes the status of becoming a character. The car has the same status. The car is also so important that we treat it as a character, the way it influences us as the audience of the story. And the way it is entangled with the story, it becomes a character. So what do we mean when we say the object becomes a character? What we mean is that this object is not just a passive object, like this. It's not a passive object. It is an object that becomes associated with a goal, a drive, a tendency. When we look at the ring, we don't just see the ring, we also see a tendency towards in the direction of some kind of action. And so that's one, that the object becomes a character. It is associated with goal, aims, tendencies. The second feature is that those features persist through time enough such that they become identifiable. So the ring, what kind of things is it associated with? What kind of tendencies, goals? It is those tendencies are the activities of a con artist, a swindler. And the history behind this ring is that the ring belonged to Jimmy's friend Marco, and they used to go do these little petty crimes, not petty crimes, but the artistry crimes together. They would go and swindle other people, take advantage of naive individuals and get their money. After Marco's death, which was tragic for Jimmy, Jimmy is informed that the ring is given to him, and Marco wanted Jimmy to have that ring. And that moment when Jimmy starts wearing the ring, the spirit of their relationship and the spirit of their history as two con artists, that history becomes encapsulated and captured, that spirit inside this object. Just like how in the Harry Potter story, Voldemort put his spirit, some parts of his spirit, into these objects called Horcruxes. That ring becomes kind of like a Horcrux. It contains now a spirit, and that spirit drives Jimmy towards some actions. So that's one. The second object I want to talk about is the car, Jimmy's car. But the car doesn't have the same kind of transition, just like the ring. The car comes with Jimmy from the very beginning of the story. We see Jimmy with his car. And the car, what does that symbolizes? The car is a mess. It's a patchwork. It is like pieces that don't belong together and barely hang together are staying together, and they stay in the shape of a car, and they are barely surviving. And at the same time, this car, even though it is a patchwork, it is a fragmented set of, it's a mess, fragmented set of pieces. It still persists. So this car is a kind of like a will to survive. It's barely alive, but at the same time, it wants to survive. It wants to keep going. And that reflects another side of Jimmy, the hard work, the persistence, the not giving up while he has such a hard time, while his life is a mess. There are two scenes that I want to talk about. The ring scene, the most significant scene for me that really shook me, that was Season 2, episode 8. What happens in that episode? In that episode, Kim tells Jimmy that somebody did something wrong to her. Like there was a firm that took the case from Kim. That was the only case that she cared about. And we see Kim, as Kim is saying that to Jimmy, we see her through the ring, basically. In the frame, we have Jimmy's hand and the ring is there, and then down, Kim is at the lower part, Kim is sitting on the ground. And as Jimmy is listening to Kim's statement, information, we see the reaction of the hand, and this reaction is so beautiful. It's like a snake moving around with rage. It's like, oh, how dare they do that to you? And that we feel that spirit moving and reacting and feeling something. So that's a really beautiful scene where it really becomes clear that the ring is a character. It is a kind of a spirit inside Jimmy, moving him occasionally in some directions. The car scene is a very moving, very powerful scene. It's at the beginning of season 4. It is season 4, I think the beginning portion of episode 1. When is that? What happens is Jimmy is told that his brother has died in a fire accident or suicide. We don't see Jimmy run towards him. We only see the car. We see snapshots of the car moving, and we really feel, as the car is moving, we feel the desperation. We feel the desperation of the car. So what is the car? Again, it's that side of Jimmy that is barely surviving. It's alive, but it's a patchwork. It's a mess. So imagine it's a character that is in a mess, that is struggling with their already existing challenges, but moving towards facing that tragedy. That's why it is we see that side, that character or sub-character of Jimmy. All right, so these are the surface features. Now, I want to say a little bit about why it is that objects can become characters. In my videos, in the archive of my videos, there is one of the less popular videos in which I talk about the psychological theories of a psychologist by the name Luc van Langenhof. And Luc van Langenhof was a collaborator of Rom Hare, who I also talk about a lot on my channel. Van Langenhof divided the social reality, the human reality, into 3 layers. And he said that these 3 layers, at the bottom we have the bare minimum of the human reality is discourse or conversation. So imagine the discourse of a con artist. It's a kind of discourse. A con artist comes in, he is confident, he or she is confident, and he tricks the naive person on the other side. So this is a kind of conversation, or a fancier word for conversation is discourse. It's an ongoing relationship. So whatever we are, whatever persons are, we always find ourselves participating in some kind of relationship that is going somewhere. It's a story. It's a story with rules. So a husband-wife relationship that are going on a date or going on a friend's wedding, that's a story. It has an identifiable set of characters, plot, beginning and end. A con artist similarly has this kind of a mother, child, or a brother, 2 brothers either fighting or supportive of each other. That's a discourse. So Jimmy found himself in several discourses throughout his life as we see his story unfold. He has this relationship with his brother, which is he doesn't receive much love from him. He has a relationship with his father, which is really disappointing to him because he sees his father continually being tricked. And he has a relationship with Marco, where together they are smart, they go on adventures, they trick other people, and they gain interesting stories and they some material benefits from their story. So that discourse of Jimmy and Marco together gives them a role. Okay, so that was layer 1, discourse. Layer 2 is when we identify places in this discourse, and one of these places is a person. So persons and character, a person emerges from these conversations. In the beginning, we are not very stable, but when we receive consistent love, support, or disappointment from other people with whom we are in a relationship, these relationships, conversations, discourse, they make us stable enough that we become characters. But these characters are not always unitary. They're not always one thing. They can be fragmented and divided into parts that are not in peace with each other. That's why the 3rd layer is important. So Langenhoff says that the bottom level we have, that the bedrock, we have discourse and speech acts. The second layer we have people, artifacts, institutions. And the third layer we have symbols, or he calls them icons. And an icon is a kind of like a reminder. It is a reminder that guides our attention towards parts of a character, or a character's goal, or a part of a character's history. So why, again, going back to the first question at the beginning, why do these objects become characters? It is because they become stable enough as part of the discourse and as part of the characters involved that they become icons. An icon that reminds us of part of the character and in turn part of the discourse, the kinds of discourse that the character is involved with. So a con artist that is inside Jimmy, living secretly, we cannot easily pay attention to him if the directors and the makers of the movie don't make that reference to the ring. Because Jimmy is very complex. He is involved with many discourses and many aims, many goals. But by putting that symbol there, they can easily remind us and point our attention to the direction of the spirit that lives inside Jimmy. So very artful, very enjoyable TV show. I'm looking forward to continuing watching the rest, and I'm already sad for the time that there is no more Better Call Saul to watch. Anyways, I hope this is an entertaining, interesting analysis of the objects as characters, and thank you for watching.